Everything will be okay. It's a message for young women in a new book from Fox News commentator Dana Perino.
From the outside, Dana Perino's life has always looked picture perfect, polished, poised, and totally in control. As a respected figure in politics and media, she's built her career on grace under pressure. But behind the scenes, things haven't always been so seamless. And now, after years of keeping quiet, Dana is finally pulling back the curtain, opening up about the man who's quietly been there through it all, her husband, Peter. Their relationship has weathered more than most people realize. And just when everyone thought the story had ended in divorce, Dana's revealing a twist no one expected. So what really happened between them? And why is she choosing to speak now? To get the full picture, we've got to rewind back to where it all started. You see, Dana Perino wasn't looking for romance when she boarded that late summer flight from Denver to Chicago in August 1997. She and Peter McMahon happened to be the very last passengers to climb aboard.
And I was the last, this guy and I were the last two people to get on the plane. We were assigned seats next to each other. It was American Airlines.
And fate sat them side by side, each grabbing one of the only two empty seats left on the plane. As soon as they settled in, Dana found herself intrigued by this British businessman. After all, life in Washington, D.C. was feeling pretty grim at the time, and a bit of distraction sounded good. Peter, for his part, spotted a cute blonde with a ponytail as he walked down the jetway, and silently hoped she'd be his seatmate. When their eyes met, both of them felt that spark. She liked that he wasn't wearing a wedding ring and that he spoke with a delightful accent.
When we sat down, I did this quick check. I was like, oh, he's cute, and he's not wearing a wedding ring, and he has a British accent.
He thought she was exactly the type of person he wanted to get to know. 2.5 hours of conversation later, Dana didn't want to come across as overeager, but she didn't want to lose her chance either. Instead of handing over her number casually, she handed him a business card listing her home, office, fax number, and even her email, trying to sound professional. Peter later joked that it was like she was sending him a small phone directory, but he wasn't deterred. He waited until he landed back in London before shooting her a heartfelt email. But here's where the story gets extra dramatic. Dana didn't check that inbox for 10 days. Every morning, she'd think, maybe today. But she was too nervous to face it. She admits she couldn't eat, sleep, or concentrate on anything else until, finally, curiosity won out. She signed on, and there it was, Peter's message, pouring out how much he'd enjoyed their flight together. From that moment on, they sustained a transatlantic romance hinged on expensive long-distance calls and letters. Their first in-person date came months later in New Orleans. Peter flew in Friday night, dashed to his hotel to change, and then practically camped out in the airport lounge, pacing like a teenager on a first date, waiting for Dana's plane. And when she finally stepped off that flight, she ran straight into his arms, knowing she'd never have summoned the courage otherwise. Not even a year after meeting, McMahon surprised everyone by dropping to one knee right outside the Washington Cathedral and asking Perino to marry him. He told her that it was the only way they could truly be together. Perino, however, took her time. She waited a full year from the day they first met before giving him her answer. At first, Perino was hesitant. She was 25, he was 43. To her, that gap felt enormous. She admitted to the American Enterprise Institute that she had countless reasons to talk herself out of the relationship. On top of that, McMahon lived in England, and she was about to make a major career move. The idea of leaving everything she knew made her pause. Still, love won out. Perino packed her bags and moved to England, ready to build a life with McMahon. She sent him a heartfelt letter detailing her love for him, how much she enjoyed her time in the UK, and how excited she was about their future. At the end of that letter, she wrote, "Yes, I will marry you." When McMahon read it, he told friends it was one of the happiest moments of his life, and Perino still confirms it to be true. The couple eloped in 1988, keeping their marriage a secret across the pond. The ceremony was intimate, just the two of them and two witnesses. Perino's parents remained unaware of the union until they visited weeks later. While she loved her career, Perino didn't work in Britain. Visa restrictions kept her sidelined. Instead, she spent her days reading, volunteering, and delighting in her new life. Ironically, some of the biggest headlines of the era, Monica Lewinsky and the Clinton impeachment trial, unfolded while she was overseas, and she followed every twist and turn as closely as ever. Perino later shared with Business Insider that she had been concerned about how a pause in her career would be perceived. She had been on a steady trajectory, and stepping away felt like a risk. But the adventure, coupled with her love for McMahon, ultimately made it worthwhile. However, Dana Perino's time in San Diego with her husband, Peter McMahon, was cut short in the wake of the September 11, 2001 attacks. Just weeks after the tragedy, she and McMahon returned to Washington, D.C., where Perino shifted from working on Capitol Hill, first for Colorado Representative Scott McInnes, then for Dan Schaefer, to taking on various roles within the George W. Bush administration. By 2007, Perino was running on fumes. President Bush's second term was winding down, and she felt it was time to step away. Armed with a resignation letter, she prepared to break the news to Ed Gillespie, the president's top advisor. The twist came when Gillespie, before she could speak, told her that President Bush wanted her as the next press secretary beginning that Monday. Tony Snow, her predecessor, had resigned to focus on his health after a cancer diagnosis, and suddenly, Perino found herself catapulted into the role she'd only ever dreamed about. The promotion carried historic significance. D.D. Myers had been the first woman to serve as press secretary under President Clinton, but Perino made history as the first Republican woman to hold the position. She entered the briefing room with enthusiasm, only to face her first diplomatic challenge. Balancing on an apple crate behind the podium to avoid purchasing a new riser, inadvertently obscuring the White House seal and briefly revealing "White Ho" in its place. Mortified at the time, she laughs at the memory now. Although Dana Perino held the role of White House press secretary for just a year and a half, she made a considerable impact in that brief period. Her tenure, at the end of George W. Bush's presidency, presented a public image of calm professionalism behind the podium. But behind the scenes, the reality was far more complex. She later opened up about it in her book, where she didn't just talk about policy or politics, she got real about how tough the job was on her body and mind. The last 7 months especially took a toll. Sleep became something she needed pills for. Her stomach couldn't handle anything but bland food, and she'd forget to eat unless someone reminded her. And then there was the back pain. So bad she was seeing the White House doctor 3 times a week just to get through the workday. At one point, things got so rough that her arm went numb from the elbow down. Blackberries were still a new thing, and she figured constantly typing on one might have had something to do with it. That wasn't the only issue. A sinus infection led to ear ringing that got so loud it actually woke up her husband at night. She described being at a press briefing, staring at a reporter moving their mouth, but not being able to hear a word over the noise in her head. And her responsibilities didn't end with talking to the press. When traveling with fewer staff, she was also in charge of doing her makeup, and sometimes others. It was a lot. On one of those trips, near the end of Bush's second term, she flew with the president to Baghdad. Things seemed to be going well. She even turned to Ed Gillespie and pointed out how incredible it was to see Iraqi journalists asking questions at a press conference, something many of them never thought would be possible. But right after that moment of reflection, chaos hit. A Secret Service agent lunged forward to protect the president, accidentally knocking over a microphone stand. The thing swung around and smacked Perino straight in the face. She ended up with a black eye so bad it made her tear up as she left the room. Bush, still at the podium, thought she was crying over a journalist throwing shoes at him. She had to clear that up quickly. It wasn't about the shoes, it was the mic to the face. That black eye was the only time something like that happened on the job, but it sure left a mark, both physically and as part of her story during those final days of the Bush administration. After her time at the White House, Dana Perino found herself in that weird in-between space. Done with one big chapter, but not totally sure what the next one should be. She knew she wanted to stay in the mix, to keep having a voice in the national conversation. That chance came through a casual but meaningful chat in D.C. with Fox News anchor Sean Hannity. He saw something in her and believed the network could use her perspective. Even though Fox already had Karl Rove, another Bush-era Republican, Hannity pushed back and told the higher-ups that Dana brought something different to the table. She started off slow, just appearing as a guest on his show here and there. But those guest spots turned into something more when Fox brought her on full-time as a contributor in 2009. That gig opened the door. It was her foot in, and from there, she kept leveling up. The real turning point came in 2017, when she launched her show, The Daily Briefing with Dana Perino. Airing every weekday afternoon, it provided her with a platform to lead the conversation, rather than simply participate. Dana discussed how Fox was evolving, pushing its audience to engage more, but the viewers remained loyal, and the network continued to grow. As she described it, the atmosphere was solid. Even after the show ended, she didn't slow down. Today, she co-anchors America's Newsroom with Bill Hemmer every weekday morning and has been entrusted with leading special programming for the network. Meanwhile, Peter McMahon made the move to the U.S. full-time. According to Perino, her husband didn't just adapt to life in America, he fully embraced it. She's said he's one of the most patriotic people she knows, even developing a passion for American football. One look at McMahon's Facebook, and it's clear what he's all about. Horses, a Harley-Davidson with a sidecar, and most of all, dogs. His profile is like a shrine to them. Over 100 photos of their pups, and barely a handful of people. Dana pops up here and there, but the stars of his page are the dogs. There's also a sense of adventure that jumps out of the photos. He's flown planes, gone whitewater rafting, even been up close with an elephant. The guy definitely lives for a little thrill. But on a day-to-day level, life for McMahon and Perino has been more low-key. They've got a house in Bay Head, New Jersey, and another spot in New York City. But New Jersey's really home. During COVID, a New York Post article talked about how they'd pass time at home doing puzzles, listening to music, and relaxing around a game table in the living room. That's where they felt most grounded. Since getting married, Dana Perino has often spoken about Peter McMahon as her greatest supporter. When she left Washington for the UK during the Lewinsky scandal, he was right there beside her. Through relocations to San Diego and then back to Capitol Hill after 9/11, McMahon remained a steady presence. In a 2018 Fox News essay, Perino described marrying him as the best decision of her life. Challenging at times, but deeply rewarding. Over the years, the couple has shared their lives with 3 Hungarian Wislas, Henry, Jasper, and Percy. Perino has always considered them family. She even wrote an entire book about Jasper, their second dog. And Jasper? He wasn't just any dog. For Fox News viewers, he became a kind of celebrity, America's dog. He showed up on shows like The Five and America's Newsroom. Perino would walk him in Central Park, and more people recognized Jasper than her. Jasper passed away over Labor Day weekend in 2021, and the loss was profound. Tributes poured in across social media. In a heartfelt essay, Perino reflected on how he made them laugh and softened her edges. She held him in his final moments and imagined the fishing he'd do in heaven. However, behind the affection and visibility, Jasper offered something deeply human: companionship, joy, and unconditional love. Perino once described the difficulty of seeing his toys still scattered around the apartment. A friend told her that grief is the price we pay for love, a sentiment that stayed with her. And for Perino, loving Jasper was worth it all. When people asked how they could help, her answer was simple: love each other. Hold on tightly to the ones you care about, pets included, and love with your whole heart. Peter and Dana have always found a way to make it work, even with the kind of lives that pull most couples apart. She's a sharp political commentator and author, constantly in the spotlight, while he's the steady hand behind the scenes. People close to them say Peter's got this calm, grounding energy, like he's her anchor when things get chaotic. And that balance they've built? It's not just about personality. They share the same values: family, faith, working hard, and making time to explore the world together. The age difference? Never been an issue. What they have is built on real connection, trust, and a deep respect for one another. But lately, life threw them a curveball. Some unexpected health challenges entered the picture, shaking things up in ways they never imagined. And yet, instead of pulling them apart, it's drawn them even closer. Dana recently opened up a little about what's been going on. Peter's dealing with some serious health issues. She didn't go into details, but just hearing it from her let people know it's been tough. For a couple known for being each other's rock, this has been one of the hardest chapters yet. Health problems, they don't just affect the person who's sick. They shift everything, emotionally, physically, day-to-day life. And for Dana, that meant stepping into the role of caregiver. That's no small thing, especially when you're also one of the most recognizable faces on cable news. Juggling the demands of her job while taking care of Peter has taken strength most people don't see. But she's doing it, not because it's easy, but because that's who she is. These kinds of challenges test even the strongest relationships. They reveal cracks, or they reveal the strength of the foundation. And for Peter and Dana, it's been the latter. Their partnership, already built on years of mutual support, has only deepened. They've faced fears, adjusted routines, and leaned on the bond they've always had. What's happening now has only added more layers to their story, ones that speak to real resilience and love that runs deep. Peter, even with all he's facing, has managed to stay strong in his own way. He's still the positive one, still lifting Dana up with his outlook and inner strength. And she's matching that energy, standing by him with a kind of quiet power that only grows in hard times. She even had her own health scare recently, something on her forehead caught early and taken care of. That experience gave her a deeper understanding of how fragile things are and how fast life can shift. But instead of letting fear take over, they've chosen gratitude. Now, every moment feels more important than ever, and that awareness shapes how they see the world. As they step into this next chapter, they carry the same unity that's always held them together. Sure, the future's still uncertain, but one thing's for sure: Dana and Peter's bond is real. It's been through the fire, and it's still standing. But while life got serious behind the scenes, the internet had its own plans. You see, people can't get enough of celebrity drama, especially when it involves familiar faces from TV. So when the internet lit up in May 2024 with talk of Dana Perino and Sean Hannity beefing behind the scenes at Fox News, folks jumped all over it. The story really took off, thanks to a bunch of Facebook ads claiming Perino was quitting the network after a heated argument with Hannity over some new business move. Those ads were sketchy from the jump. Clicking on them took people to a fake Fox News site pushing a line of CBD gummies supposedly created by Perino. They were called Fortin CBD gummies and were being hyped as a miracle product that could instantly and permanently reverse dementia. Wild claims like that should have made people pause. But the gossip was too juicy to ignore. The fake story went even deeper, saying Hannity was furious with Perino for promoting her side hustle on air. He allegedly accused her of making the network look bad and risking major sponsorship deals. Meanwhile, Perino was painted as brushing off the criticism, saying Hannity just wanted her time slot and that she wasn't going to fold under so-called cancel culture pressure. Supposedly, Hannity demanded she be fired and apologize for breaking their contract. It all sounded messy and explosive. But then came the truth. Snopes stepped in, like they usually do, and cleared everything up. Dana Perino never launched any CBD line. There was no blow-up with Hannity, and there definitely wasn't any tension on set. In fact, anyone who watches them knows they usually agree on everything politically. Both had plenty to say about Kamala Harris during the 2024 campaign. Hannity criticized her for skipping the Al Smith dinner, and Perino called her out for waiting too long to concede after losing to Trump. So why did people buy into the drama? Well, Hannity has a track record of public spats. Back in 2021, he called out Jimmy Kimmel after Kimmel clowned his interview with Caitlyn Jenner. Then there was that dust-up with Tucker Carlson, when Tucker was allegedly leaking internal Fox News drama to other outlets. Hannity didn't hold back on air, calling out unnamed co-workers for bad-mouthing him behind his back. And let's not forget Megyn Kelly. Things got tense between them when she hinted Trump only did interviews with Hannity because he never challenged him.
And Donald Trump, with all due respect to my friend at 10 o'clock, will go on Hannity and pretty much only Hannity and will not venture out to the unsafe spaces these days.
Hannity clapped back online, even accusing Kelly of backing Hillary Clinton in 2016. According to insiders, she was chasing headlines while he was focused on helping Trump win. So when rumors of a feud between Hannity and Perino began to circulate, they didn't seem entirely implausible. Although the story was ultimately unfounded, given past dynamics, it wasn't difficult to imagine some underlying tension playing out behind the scenes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, comment, and turn on post notifications to stay updated with our latest content.